Now, there was the premiere episode for this season called Brother. Now we know they called it Brother because it's about Spock, Burnham's foster brother. But of course we know, right, that we still have not seen Spock yet in this season of Discovery. But, I mean, we've all seen the pictures of Ethan Peck as Spock, so we know he's going to be on it at some point. Okay, so in this episode, Brother, they have the red points of light, and Starfleet is interested in those. Like, what are these things? What's happening with this? And we get to see the introduction of Captain Christopher Pike on Discovery.
Which was fantastic.
It was. Anson Mount, he does a great job as Pike. I did like his Pike. He was authoritative. He just comes in and takes over, but he's still a nice guy. And the way he wanted to get to know the crew and the way he was very accepting of them, like as his crew, he had to take over Discovery.
And he was impressed when he saw the ship. So last season, we had a little bit of frustration that they tweaked the Enterprise because we love the TOS Enterprise. And so, well, we're like, how is he going to handle going on this and how's he going to adjust to this? But it showed, okay, they had somewhat of a homage to the original series because now we're seeing colors that are of the Kirk era, the red, gold, and blue shirts.
Yes, from the Enterprise, we saw Pike and the two other people, the science officer from his ship, and the woman in the red. So we got to see yellow, blue, and red uniforms.
Yes, so we know that wasn't in the cage. That didn't start coming until Kirk got on the ship. So it was after Where No Man Goes Gone before.
So it was actually a little bit of breaking of canon.
We're trying to figure out. Yeah, we're trying to figure out. Okay, so somehow they're going to have to work this out. Somehow they're going to say, "Well, these are test uniforms. We're going to try them on for a little while." Or so in our own head canon, we're trying to make a canon. We're trying to retcon it, saying how does it fit in? But at least there's some familiarity there. But it was impressive that he went on the ship. He looked at Discovery and said, "Wow, I could see where the Federation is putting all its pennies." So he's acknowledging that this is way more advanced than anything that he's been on.
Well, another thing about the uniforms, we did a rewatch for No Man Has Gone Before, and I did notice the ladies back then, their collars. Some of them had the triangle collar where the point goes down, and that's very similar to the Discovery uniforms with that heavy collar with the points down.
So little by little, we'll probably see something jive.
I think so.
I liked the episode, though. Boy, it was full of action. I mean, this actually felt more like a Star Trek episode.
It did. It's going. Yeah, it does feel more like it's going back toward what Star Trek is about. And also, this was the introduction of Chief Engineer Jet Reno, played by comedian Tig Notaro, and she did a great job in that part too.
She did. I like the fact that she had input on the character's name, and she named it Jet in homage to Joan Jett.
That's so cool, yeah.
It is.
Oh, and also, we just have to... So in this episode, they also mentioned that Spock was not on the Enterprise at this time because Burnham had asked to see him, and Sarek was in this episode too. And so they were wondering, where is Spock? And Pike had to say that... this time he just said he's not on the ship. Well, Spock is not on Enterprise right now. And then later we find out that he had checked himself into a mental institution. So that's a developing story right now on the series. That's one of their serial plot points, something that's continuing.
So this season I'm really excited about because we're getting more colorful uniforms for number one. Well, not for number one, but number one, we're getting more colorful uniforms. We're getting...
Oh, I thought you meant number one, the second in command. That's not what you meant.
No. So, and I'm excited that we have some kind of background with Spock. I'm not a big fan of prequels in general. I'm not a big fan of constantly putting Spock into things just to get the average viewer to watch it, because Spock is pretty much the face of the entire Star Trek universe. But we're getting some background of his family life. We're actually getting some sort of sensibility of how Michael entered into his family. And I was put off immediately because, wow, wouldn't Spock have said when he met her, wow, you smell, you're a human. But you brought up a good point. Why wouldn't Spock find Michael's scent offensive?
Well, first of all, so what you're getting that from is Enterprise, because they said it on Enterprise. So, but the thing is with
Vulcans
Spock,
find humans offensive, their smell.
Their smell, yes. But Spock was already accustomed to his mother, so he had already been around a human all his life. So maybe
and he's half human.
Yeah.
So he's probably used to it at this time. Good point.
Yes, but then we still have to. Yeah, it did show. They showed Spock in flashbacks, and they showed him as a child and Burnham as a child, and when Sarek was introducing Michael to Spock, and Spock really didn't even want to talk to her, didn't want to have anything to do with her. Yeah, so that's an interesting development. So we'll probably learn more about that later.
He was so talkative in yesteryear, but this shows a different side to his personality. So I'm excited about moving forward with the various storylines that are running through here, as well as what's going on with Tilly.
Yeah, that was interesting with Tilly too. She's got something going, seeing visions of someone she knew in high school, and then she looks up this person and finds out that the person is dead. So why is she seeing this person like walking around talking to her? Mm-hmm. And so we do find out that is a vision.
Yeah.
Which we learn
Actually,
more later.
Let's roll into New Eden.
Yes,
episode 2.
The next episode. Okay. And this one was good. This one was so much the flavor of maybe an original episode or a TNG episode. Mm-hmm. And it's a completely standalone episode. This one didn't have as much about the regular storyline, or the one that was started in episode 1.
We know that it's going to build up because it's one of the flashes of light that they're following.
Yes, they found a planet by following a flash of light, and so this is a planet that is colonized by people who left Earth a long time ago, before there was warp drive on Earth. Now they're on this planet with hardly any technology, and there's a church there. The people are very religious. They have this church where it looks like they had combined different religions. Mm-hmm. They still believe in deities.
And, wow, directed by Jonathan Frakes. And
another winner by Jonathan Frakes.
Anything that Jonathan Frakes touches right now gets my attention. He directed Orville. He's directing Star Trek Discovery. He's fantastic. This episode felt more like Star Trek than any Discovery since.
It does, or even any Discovery before.
Before right? That, yes.
And I did like it, and so it was similar to some other Star Trek episodes, such as Who Watches the Watchers.
Yes, we both agree. Immediately, we said that
which is you can see it all the way through. But and I do like it, but I still have to say, even though I liked it, and even though it did feel like Star Trek, I almost had this feeling watching it. It's kind of a retread of Star Trek, and I kind of didn't want that. I don't really want them to repeat themselves, even though it's hard to be completely original because there is so much Star Trek that's been done. It's over 50 years old. Mm-hmm. But
over 700 episodes.
I know. So many stories.
Thousands of stories if you consider the comics and novels. So to tread brand new territory is very difficult. But
in a lot of ways, the other episodes of Discovery are more original, even though you could say similar to Deep Space Nine or whatever. But yeah, the continuing storyline they're doing about the points of light and the Red Angels, I think that one's more original to Star Trek. So
I'm excited to see how it develops, how they have to travel to find out about these points of light. So we're going into exploration. Anytime Star Trek is about exploration, I'm hooked.
That is what we want. Because that's the feeling. That's why we liked why we liked all the other Star Trek shows before.
Especially TOS and TNG.
Yes.
TOS is our favorite because of that excitement of exploration. So we went more into this Tilly issue of what's going on in her brain.
Yes. So do you want to go on to the next episode?
Yeah, and this develops it even further. Episode number 3.
Point of Light. Now this one had basically 3 storylines, I think. Mm-hmm. So they had the part about Tilly, the part about Michael Burnham with Amanda Grayson. She came back in this. And then the part about the Klingons and L'Oreal. And so we'll talk about all of those things. So, so as we were just saying about Tilly, so she finds out that, so we remember the way Discovery ended last season where with the mycelial network and the big explosion and they had all the sparks of light and one hit Tilly's shoulder and everybody was wondering what that was. You saw on social media, oh, maybe it was, Wilson Cruz coming back or something.
Yes, yep.
But it turns out that was something that infected her, and also that combined with the black matter that she had gotten from the first episode this season, Brother. And it's some kind of an entity, and it's actually not really a friendly entity because the way that her image of her friend started talking to her, it was telling her. It was yelling at her and saying, say this to your captain, and this is not my captain.
Very forceful and telling her what to do and demanding.
Yes, very antagonistic. And so they figured out that was some other alien being, and they were able to draw it out of her body and capture it in a force field, and then we will see what happens after that. We saw in the trailer there's still going to be something about it in the next episode.
But the bulk of it we're looking at the Klingons in the aftermath of the war.
Yes, so we get to see L'Oreal again, and we get to see Ash Tyler. And so now we have Ash Tyler with his much thicker beard and wearing all black and his relationship with L'Oreal, which seems very strained. They still care about each other. It seems like she still loves him, and he acted like he wasn't as sure at first. And her place as the chancellor, and she's being threatened as the chancellor. And we have, let's see, everyone remembers Cole from the first season, the Klingon Cole who was killed. And this episode has his father. And I actually read that it's played by the same actor that played Cole. They got the one that played Cole played his father as well.
It makes sense.
Even though like we're not going to be able to recognize him anyway, but but that was good that they got him.
And they streamlined the Klingons a little bit more, made them more to the point that we enjoy what we've been known Klingons to look like, so their hair is growing back. And they made mention, they said the war is over, so we're growing our hair back. I'm glad that they're making some adjustments to make it, there's a sensibility to why the Klingons did what they did and what they're doing now.
At least they explained why the Klingons didn't have hair and now they do.
And I love the fact that, because earlier on, that reading of everything in Klingon was getting pretty tiresome in the first season. So the way that they transitioned it this time was wonderful. How they took the subtitles and then they translated the subtitles into Klingon and then they made the Klingon speak English. It was much easier to watch the show and enjoy the show that way. It
was. And so with L'Oreal, she, at the end when she said, so she submitted herself as the Klingon leader. And she said from now, didn't she, something like from now on, call me mother?
I'm like, okay, whatever.
What was that? Yeah, I don't think that was a reference to any previous thing on Star Trek or anything that has to do with the Klingons. I did think of something it reminded me of. There was the show Futurama that used to be on. And that was created by the same guy who did The Simpsons. And I almost had to say, wait, was that Seth MacFarlane? No, that wasn't one of Seth MacFarlane's shows. Okay, so Futurama. But on that show, they did have some evil old woman who called herself Mom. I do remember that. That's just what it reminds me of. L'Oreal saying, call me mother. So hopefully they'll explain more about that.
Yeah, it's the best way. I read somewhere 2 different ways to enjoy the show, and when you combine them, the show gets much better because we were on such a high with the last episode, and then this one, here we go again with a lot of disjointed things. If you view it as a Enterprise sequel, you'll enjoy it more as opposed to a TOS prequel, and you'll enjoy it more if you, even though they say it's prime timeline, I just don't see how it lines up to the prime timeline. Some of the things in there are just getting out of hand. That
So
whole
we'll
end
see,
scene with the
yeah.
mother was weird. The little baby.
And
We'll
yeah,
see. Yeah, we'll see.
there's conjecture that the baby is going to be the albino that was in Deep Space Nine. So, I mean, who knows? They could be setting that up. But having a baby sent to be raised by monks, I guess that's the best way to keep it a secret, as they wanted. Now having Michelle Yeoh come back, that was good.
The last 5 minutes were fantastic.
Section 31, which I have always loved, and I would love to see a show about it, so they are planning that with Michelle Yeoh.
And the ship, woo! There's going to be a whole ship full of Section 31 people?
Yeah,
right?
That should be good.
I think it's going to be exciting. So that element of the episode, it's setting us up for something really awesome in a new series.
Okay, and then the other plot line we had was about Michael Burnham and Amanda Grayson, because Amanda came into this show, and this is where we find out, what they say is that Spock just killed 3 doctors at the mental institution where he is. And that's and they're trying to figure out was Spock affected by some outside force maybe that caused him to do this?
No.
I mean, we don't know, because that doesn't sound like Spock. And Amanda said, no, my son would never do that. And Michael didn't think he would do that either. And when Captain Pike, he's Spock's friend, he's his captain. He said, well, he didn't think Spock would do that either. So that's something that we'll find out about. And the fact that Spock has been seeing these red angels for a long time.
Since childhood.
Well, he is. Yeah, I was going to say he is still a child, because they showed him as a child in the first episode. But
I'm saying
for his whole life. Yeah.
Amanda said, look, these are all pictures that he's been drawing forever. I mean, can you imagine if you had a child that just kept drawing pictures his entire life of a red angel?
It's very strange, yes. So now Spock must becoming closer to finding out the origin of this vision that he's been having that he never knew what it was.
And I'm hoping that they explain things further about the family, because Amanda said she was speaking to Michael Burnham about her and Spock and Sarek and herself, and she said the 4 of us, and she finished a sentence of whatever they had to do or whatever they were dealing with. And we looked at each other and said, well, what about Cybok? Shouldn't she have said the 5 of us? They are not mentioning Cybok at all.
Well, and some of us, are happy that they're not mentioning him. If you know about Cybok, you think that's strange. But if you only know about this show, then you wouldn't even notice it. But
it goes along the path. If you don't consider this prime timeline, if you don't worry about everything that's established for the past 50 years of Trek, these things won't bother you. And so that's the way you got to look at it, is that I don't know. Did they purposely say only the 4 of them in the family, or was it a slip? I don't know.
There has been conjecture that they could explain it by saying that Burnham didn't know Cybok. Cybok might have already gone at this time. But I don't know about that. And also the conjecture that maybe that CBSs might not be allowed to use any of the movie characters. Maybe. But it is something that's been established in canon. The movies are canon. I mean, the first 6 movies are still canon.
As much as we don't like Cybok, we're stuck with him.
Right. That was that episode. The whole thing, I think, it was very intriguing, and it was more of a setup for what's to come.
Yes. And they're still following those red flashes. So that was it for the past month worth of Trek.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.